What if I told you Persia never really disappeared? What if the country we call Iran today is actually the same ancient Persia you learned about in history books? Then why did the name change? Why would a civilization with thousands of years of glory suddenly become something else in the 20th century? This isn't just about a name. This is about power, identity, religion, politics, and how one decision changed how the entire world sees a nation. To understand this story, we need to go back thousands of years, long before the name Iran even existed. Imagine a massive land surrounded by mountains, deserts, and ancient trade roads, a land where ideas traveled as much as goods. This place was the Iranian plateau, one of the most important regions in ancient history. Around 2,000 years before Christ, new people arrived there. They were nomads. They spoke Indo-European languages, related to languages like Greek and Latin. Their words for mother and father sounded surprisingly familiar. This culture was ancient, deep, and completely different from Arabic, which many people wrongly connect with Iran today. Among these early groups, two became important: the Medes and the Persians. The Medes were strong and powerful. For a long time, they controlled the region. The Persians? At first, they were smaller, less powerful. They lived in a southern area called Pars, which later gave the world the name Persia. Back then, Persia was just a small region, not an empire, not a civilization. No one could imagine that these small Persians would soon change world history forever. And then a man was born, a man who would unite tribes, defeat empires, and build something the world had never seen before. His name was Cyrus, and everything was about to change. Before Alexander, before Rome, before the word superpower even existed, there was Cyrus the Great. Cyrus didn't just defeat the Medes, he united them. Instead of destroying his enemies, he brought them into his vision. That was his genius. He didn't rule through fear alone. He ruled through respect, and that changed everything. After taking control, Cyrus founded what we now call the Achaemenid Empire, the first true Persian empire. But this wasn't like other empires of the ancient world. Most rulers destroyed temples, enslaved people, and forced everyone to follow one culture. Cyrus did the opposite. When he conquered Babylon, he didn't burn it. He restored it. He allowed exiled Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. To them, he wasn't a conqueror, he was a liberator. Instead of forcing one religion, he respected local gods. Instead of banning local languages, he allowed them to continue. He understood something powerful. People are easier to govern when they feel respected. Under Cyrus, and later under Darius I, the empire exploded in size. It stretched from the Indus River in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west, from Egypt in the south to Central Asia in the north. It was massive, but it wasn't just big, it was organized. They built roads connecting thousands of kilometers. They created a fast messaging system. They divided the empire into provinces with local governors. They collected taxes carefully and fairly. It was smart government. For many historians, this was the world's first real superpower. But here's the thing about power: it never lasts forever. The Persian Empire looked unstoppable until a young king from the west decided to challenge it. His name was Alexander, and he wasn't coming to negotiate. In 334 BC, a young king crossed into Persian lands with a small but highly trained army. He was not yet 30 years old. His name was Alexander, and he wanted glory. The Persian Empire was huge, powerful, rich. For over 200 years, it ruled half the known world. Many thought it could never fall, but Alexander moved fast. First came the Battle of Granicus, then Issus, then the final crushing blow at Gaugamela. One by one, the Persian armies were defeated. The last Persian king, Darius III, fled. And just like that, the mighty empire of Cyrus collapsed. But here's what most people don't realize. Alexander didn't destroy Persia. He admired it. He walked through Persian palaces and was impressed by their beauty. He studied their government system. He kept their administrators in power. He even started dressing like a Persian king. He married Persian princesses. He took part in Persian ceremonies. He called himself the rightful successor of the Persian kings. Many of his own Greek soldiers hated this. They thought he came to defeat Persia, not become Persian. They felt betrayed. But Alexander understood something important. If you want to rule a massive empire, you can't just use swords. You need legitimacy. You need people to accept you. He dreamed of creating one great empire where East and West were united. But that dream didn't last. In 323 BC, at just 32 years old, Alexander suddenly died. And with him, his unified empire died too. His generals fought each other and divided the land. Persia was no longer ruled by Persians. But it wasn't gone. It was waiting. And soon, it would rise again. After Alexander died, everything fell apart. His empire broke into pieces like shattered glass. His generals, known as the Diadochi, began fighting for control. The Persian lands ended up under Greek rulers called the Seleucids. On the surface, Persia was no more. Greek language spread. Greek culture became powerful. Cities were renamed. New rulers sat on old Persian thrones. But something important was happening underneath. The Persian identity did not die. It stayed alive in families, traditions, poetry, and memory. People still remembered Cyrus. They still remembered the old empire. And then, slowly, Persia started to wake up. First came the Parthians. They pushed out the Greeks and rebuilt a strong Eastern empire. They ruled for centuries and kept Persian culture alive. But the real turning point came with a new dynasty, the Sassanids. The Sassanids rose from the region of Pars, the same homeland of the original Persians. They proudly claimed to be the true heirs of Cyrus and Darius. And this time, they brought back something very important, Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism was the ancient Persian religion. It focused on the god Ahura Mazda and the idea of good versus evil. Under the Sassanids, it became the official state religion again. Temples were rebuilt. Persian traditions were restored. Art, architecture, and science flourished. Persia was powerful again, strong enough to challenge the Roman Empire itself. For hundreds of years, the Sassanid Empire stood as one of the two great superpowers of its time, Rome in the west, Persia in the east. But history never stands still. In the 7th century, a new force began rising from the Arabian Peninsula. It was fast, it was united, and it carried a new religion, Islam. And this time, Persia would face a transformation far greater than a simple invasion. When Islam arrived in the 7th century, it changed everything. Arab armies moved quickly. In just a few decades, they defeated the mighty Sassanid Empire. The last Persian king was gone. For the first time in history, Persia was no longer ruled by a Persian empire. A new religion spread across the land, Islam. A new language became powerful, Arabic. Zoroastrian temples slowly disappeared. Islamic mosques rose in their place. Persian elites had to adapt or lose influence. But here's what makes this story powerful. Persia did not disappear. Instead of resisting forever, the Persian people absorbed the change and reshaped it. Yes, they accepted Islam, but they didn't lose their culture. They began writing poetry in Persian again. They developed science, medicine, philosophy, and art under Islamic rule. Persian scholars became some of the greatest minds of the Islamic Golden Age. Even the Arabic language itself was influenced by Persian culture. Over time, different rulers controlled the land: Arab caliphs, Turkish dynasties, Mongols, and local Persian kings. It was a political battlefield for centuries. But through all that chaos, something strong was forming. A new identity, not fully Arab, not fully ancient Persian, but something unique. Persian language survived. Persian culture survived. Persian pride survived. And then, in the 1500s, a new dynasty would rise that would change the region forever, not just politically, but religiously. They would make a bold decision, a decision that still defines Iran today. And slowly, the name Iran would begin to mean something much bigger than just geography. In the early 1500s, a new power rose from the chaos. They were called the Safavids, and they didn't just want control, they wanted unity. At that time, most Muslims in the region were Sunni, just like most of the Islamic world. But the Safavid rulers made a bold and risky decision. They declared Shi'a Islam as the official religion. This was huge. It wasn't just a religious choice. It was a political move. By choosing Shi'a Islam, they separated their state from their powerful Sunni neighbors, especially the Ottoman Empire. The change was not peaceful. There were forced conversions, reforms, and major social changes. But over time, this decision shaped the identity of the country in a deep way. This is one of the biggest reasons why modern Iran is mostly Shia today. But the Safavids did something else that was just as important. They brought Persian identity back to the center. They supported Persian language. They encouraged Persian poetry. They built incredible architecture. They revived pride in ancient history. And slowly, the word Iran started becoming more common inside the country. The name comes from an old word meaning land of the Aryans, referring to the ancient Indo-Iranian roots of the people. For centuries, locals had used versions of this name, but the outside world still called the country Persia, a name given by the Greeks, based on the region of Pars. So for a long time, there were two names. Inside the country, Iran. Outside the country, Persia. Both were correct, both were real, but they carried different meanings. And then, in the 20th century, one ruler decided it was time to choose. One official name, one new image, one message to the world. And that decision would shock many people. For hundreds of years, the world called this land Persia. The name sounded powerful, ancient, royal. It reminded people of great kings like Cyrus, massive palaces, beautiful carpets, and legendary poetry. But by the 1900s, Persia also carried another image in the West, something exotic, old-fashioned, even backward. And one man wanted to change that. In 1935, the ruler of the country, Reza Shah Pahlavi, made a bold decision. He sent a letter to foreign governments with a simple request. From now on, call our country Iran, not Persia. Why? Because Iran was the name people inside the country had used for centuries. It meant land of the Aryans. It sounded strong, national, independent. Reza Shah wanted to modernize the country, build railways, strengthen the army, westernize society, and he believed a new international name would help create a new global image. But not everyone liked this. Many intellectuals felt that the name Persia carried thousands of years of history. They feared the world would forget the ancient empire of Cyrus and Darius. Still, the change remained. Then, in 1979, everything shifted again. A revolution overthrew the monarchy. The Islamic Republic of Iran was created. Religion became even more central to the country's identity. And now, something interesting happened. The name Iran became linked in global news to politics, sanctions, and tension, while the name Persia began to sound romantic again. Ancient, poetic, mysterious. Two names, one land, one long story. So did Persia disappear? No, it evolved. It transformed. It became Iran, not by accident, but through centuries of invasion, faith, politics, and identity struggles. And here's the real question. How many other countries have changed their names and changed how we see them without us even realizing it? If this story surprised you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep historical mystery we uncover together. Because the next story might completely change what you think you know about history.